Hi, my name is Ray and I like to read a little bit. I have a serious series problem where apparently I really like reading series but not finishing them. I've somehow ended up with 22 series that I've started, gotten invested in, and then just never picked back up. And honestly, I think they've waited long enough. So it's time to finally finish all the series that I'm in the middle of. So welcome to episode 1 of Closing Chapters, where I work to finish every single series that I'm in the middle of so that I can start new series that I don't finish. So as always, grab a drink, grab your book, and come hang out and finish some series with me. Okay, so I'm currently reading Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli, and I have some thoughts. Oh my god, it's so nice to be back in this world. I didn't remember how much I love this world until I was back in it, but the tension between our main characters is just unmatched. I feel like you can feel it through the pages, and I just missed being in their heads and their story. There's certain things about this that are definitely not perfect, but it just gives me the same feelings that Heartless Hunter gave me, and I just forgot how much I loved a good YA fantasy. There's annotations on so many of these pages that I was not expecting to have this many annotations or to have this many thoughts about the book, and I also thought being so far from reading Heartless Hunter that maybe I was going to be a little bit out of it, and that maybe I was just not going to be as into it or invested in it, or maybe my reading taste has changed so much and I might not feel the same way, even though I've heard like everyone loved this even more than Heartless Hunter. I was just nervous about that prospect, but I am loving it so much and flying through this book. I'm on page 264, chapter 44, almost done. I'm more than halfway through, and I just feel like I can't wait to just sit down tonight and read a little bit more and get more into the story, but I am absolutely loving it. This was just the right pick for me, and I'm glad that I'm finally getting around to wrapping up the series. I don't know why I've let this hang on so long, but thoroughly enjoying it. I'm gonna get back to reading, and I will update my thoughts when I'm done the book. Okay, so I just finished Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli, so let's talk about it. I did end up landing on a 4-star, which is so different from what I thought it was going to be, because like when everyone was first reading this and it initially came out, everyone was like raving about it, giving it 6 stars and saying it was even better than Heartless Hunter. And I did love a lot about this book. It was so nice being back in this world and just getting to be back with these characters and just everything about it. I really love the world. I love the characters, everything about it. I gave it a 4-star because first let me tell you what I liked about it, then I'll kind of go into what kind of dropped the rating a little bit low. But I love being back in our characters' heads. I love being back in the world. There's so much much about the tension between our main characters that really does just suck you in. Like, you can feel the tension through the pages, but it's also so confusing because there's like this love-hate type of relationship because of the political world they live in and the way that they have to kind of interact with one another in the face of everything versus how they speak to each other behind the scenes. It's just a very complicated dynamic between our main characters because of the political system. My little gripes with it, like the little issues I had with the book, was I was finding that our characters in this were just vastly different from the first book, and not that that's ever a bad thing to have that type of character development, but I just feel like the decisions that they were making in this book were so different from the badass decisions they were making in the first book. It just didn't feel like the characters that we got in the first book. And I feel like what we lack in YA fantasy books at times is just the finality of decisions that have been made. I feel like there was a lot of backtracking. There was a point in this book where like I was tearing up. It did make me cry. I had to sit on it for a little while at a certain point in the book, but there was like a moment where something happened, and it could be just because it's a YA book and you have to have a more positive ending for YA books, and that might be what it is. Like, I don't feel like I read too many YA fantasy books, so maybe that is part of the formulaic kind of way that fantasy books are brought about for YA genre, but I do feel like there's a lack of finality to things. I wish I could so badly just tell you like full spoiler thoughts about everything and tell you exactly what I feel like the ending should have been to make it more impactful, but I feel like something happened where if it stayed the way that it was, I feel like it would have had more of an overall impact. There could have been more coming out of the story. I feel like there could have been a better way to end the story. I gotta start doing spoiler vlogs. I feel like that would be so much more fun to do because I can talk about all my thoughts and opinions and everything, but the lack of finality was kind of what dropped it a little bit, and I do feel like there were certain parts in this book that were not that were slowing down. I was pretty engaged the whole time. Like, the book I read before this took me a month to finish, and this one took me like less than a week, and so I was really invested in the story and I was really into it. I couldn't stop reading it. There was just certain parts that just felt repetitive, and it could be again because it's YA. We are getting a little bit more of the same things talked about constantly throughout the book, and I feel like at a certain point you don't necessarily need to repeat things. Like, the amount of times the internal dialogue between the characters was just repeated through and through every time they were together, I was like, yeah, we know this. We don't need to know it again. We know how they feel about each other. But I feel like with the repetitive nature and also the lack of finality in the book, and towards the ending, just the way that it ended up, that's what kind of dropped it. And I think that if I had just read this book and it was its own book, not part of a series, duology, whatever, I might have rated it slightly lower, like a 3.5, 3.75, but because I was already connected to the characters because of the first book and how much I love the first book, I think I gave it 5 stars. I already had that initial connection with our characters that I wanted to see how their journey ended, and I wanted to be part of their worlds. And so I think that's what really did end up bringing it up to a 4 star. But I'm really disappointed because I really thought this was going to be like a god tier 6-star book on my list. Like, I thought I was going to be one of those people who were like, this was so much better than Heartless Hunter, but I did like Heartless Hunter a lot more than I did like this, but I did like this as well. Usually we're so used to seeing these badass main characters continue that hard exterior throughout, and we got a little bit more vulnerable with our characters in here, and I feel like that vulnerability, although it was good, it did feel like we were a little bit distanced from the characters that we met in the first book, but it was interesting to see a more vulnerable side to our characters and a side to them that we probably wouldn't have seen in the first book. But just getting that side, like, our characters, not that they got a little softer, but they definitely had a little more depth to them overall, so I appreciated that about the book. But yeah, there's just something about the ending that I wanted more finality to it. But that's how I felt about it. I really did enjoy it. I still recommend the duology. I think the duology is great. Like, if you haven't read this, it's a great start to getting into YA fantasy or just fantasy in general because it is so fast. Like, I can't believe how fast I got through this book as someone who doesn't necessarily read the fastest. This duology is probably one that I will recommend continuously. Like, I told my sister if she ever wants to get into fantasy, start here. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't even think I explained what this is about. First book is about a witch and a witch hunter. We're in a world where witches used to rule, but now just regular mortals rule the world, and so they're hunting witches because of what the political system did to mere mortals when the witches were ruling, and so they're now being hunted. So we have Rune, our main female character, who is a witch vigilante saving the witches, and Gideon, who is our witch hunter, and essentially they strike up a courtship to gain intel. Rune knows that he's a witch hunter, so she's trying to get intel on where the witches are, and he doesn't necessarily know who the Crimson Moth is, who is Rune, the witch vigilante, and he's trying to gain intel in any way he thinks that Rune might know a little bit about something. So they strike up a courtship and try to get information, and things that just get really complicated, and there's just a lot that happens. So that's kind of like the short and sweet of the summary. It's really good. It's about witches. It's got magic. It's got really good tension. The romance in this is really good. I do like the romance a lot. Their tension is just like top tier. It's so good. But yeah, that's what that's about. I'm so excited that I finally wrapped up a series. What a huge accomplishment. I feel like I've been just not really focusing on the series that I'm in the middle of, and I do feel like with it being now the end of August, I really do want to start wrapping the series up. So glad that we wrapped one up in this video. The next book that we'll be reading in this video is The Next Person You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I read The 5 People You Meet in Heaven like this year, was it last year? I don't know, but all I know is that I'm going to tell you, if you have not read Mitch Albom before, you need to pick up a Mitch Albom book. He is one of my favorite authors. He writes these really short books that are full of so much depth and so much meaning, and every single time I read one of his books, it just makes you think about everything and your life, the life around you, how to become a better person, just like things that you don't think about, that like the little things matter. He really brings about the little things in his book and shows you how much little parts of your life really matter. So I read the first book. We are following Eddie, who we know right at the beginning dies on his 83rd birthday birthday, he gets to meet 5 people in heaven who made an impact on his life, whether he knew them as like someone like a friend or family, or if they were just part of his life for a small moment. In this one, we're following one of the characters from that first book and getting their experience with meeting 5 people in heaven and how those 5 people touched their lives. His books, just like I said, they make you think about so much about your own life and make you feel so grateful, but also like make you think about how can I be a better person for myself and the people around me. But I'm really excited to get into this. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Oh, nope. Let's try that again. I did end up finishing The Next Person You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I feel like I said it before, but his books are just always so good. There's not one book of his that I've read that I've been like, oh, I didn't like this. Like, I've loved every single book, and there's been so much meaning and depth that has come out of his books. There's been so many things that I've thought about in my own life and just things that I can relate to being a parent, being a daughter, being a sister. But essentially, like, we are following one of the characters from The 5 People You Meet in Heaven and their journey throughout dying, meeting people in heaven, and kind of their childhood as well. This book was so much sadder than I thought it was going to be. I was not expecting to tear up and like just feel so much from the first little bit, but he does it so well. Like I really don't know how he does it. I want to sit down and have a conversation with Mitch Albom and ask him how he gets to the point that he does, because how you take a book that is 210 pages and make me feel the same way that I could feel about a book that's 600 pages in that amount of time. Now, I did land on a 4-star for this book, and my only thing about landing on a 4-star was that I wish that we had more. I just want more. I want more of the characters' background and their backstory, because we got so much, but I just want more. I want all the years. We were getting different points of our main character's life in like age 8, then 12, and 25, and 28. Like, it was kind of all over the place. Like, I want everything. I want it all. I want to know how this person came to be, because it was so good and it was like just so well done. I do think I liked The 5 People You Meet in Heaven a little bit better. Can't remember what I rated that one, but I really liked this. It's just so good. I always go into his books saying they're so short, I don't need that many tabs, and then I ended up running out of tabs every single time. Every single time I run out of tabs, and I'm like, okay, I should have known at this point. Like, I've read 4 of his books. I should have known. He is definitely one of my favorite authors. If you have not picked up a Mitch Albom book, you are missing out. You need to read one of his books. They're so good. Now, his most known book is Tuesdays with Morrie, which is a nonfiction, but honestly does not read like a nonfiction. I didn't even know it was nonfiction until I was done. It's just such a uniquely well-written book, and I didn't know it was nonfiction until I was done reading it. So if that says anything, if you ever want to dabble in nonfiction, that is a good place to start. But again, this was 210 pages. I've read it so quickly. I'm like, you know what? This is why I love his books, because if I ever feel like I'm going to slump, if I ever feel like I'm not in the mood to pick up a book and I pick up one of his books, I'm just in it. I cannot stop reading it. His books always make me love reading, and they make me want to continue reading. So if you're ever in a point where you're in a slump, you don't know what to pick up next, you should just pick up one of his books, because I can't even explain the feeling that it gives me when I'm reading them. It just like makes me love reading. It makes me love engaging with the literature that I'm reading and analyzing things, and it makes me absolutely love annotating, because he doesn't have the most lyrical writing. Like, he'll have 1 or 2 lines here or there that feel really beautiful and that I want to underline, but I'm mainly underlining just things that I could relate to, things that bring about the themes of the book. A lot of his books are based around the themes of love and life and death, and you get that throughout all of his books, so he does stay consistent with those themes. But so I always underline things about those themes and just how they make me feel. But I can't say enough good things about his writing. I honestly think if you've never read a book by Mitch Albom, you really need to. Like, I can't say it enough. He's one of my favorite authors, and I recommend him to everyone. He is just someone who, any person that I've recommended his work to has loved his books. I haven't heard a single bad thing about his books or his writing, but I did really like the way that we were getting the little glimpses of our characters' past and the things that they were doing now, because this character was an important character in the first book that we didn't get too much of, and so getting more of this person's backstory in this book made me just really like, I don't know, you just want to give the character like a big hug, because the character went through so much. But this book was written over 15 years after the first one in the series was written, so I wonder if he wrote that as a standalone and then decided he wanted to continue the story later, if people wanted to know more about one of the characters in the story. So the thing that I find is so crazy is that the tone of both books is very similar. Like, the way that it's written, the way that we're told the stories, very similar. For it to have over a 15-year difference, but to keep the consistency of that same tone of the first book, he's just so good at what he does. Like, he is a master at his craft, and I think that's the best way to put it, is just he is a master at his craft. And I feel like I could just talk about his books forever and ever and ever. I'll just leave it at that. This was a 4-star for me. I love all of his books. I think I recommend him constantly on my channel. I think his writing is so well done. But that's all I have for today. We did end up completing 2 series in this video, which is a huge accomplishment because I feel like I haven't been completing series lately. I'm in the middle of so many. So just kind of closing the chapter to 2 series is just, I know they're duologies, but it just feels really rewarding. I feel really proud of myself. So if you're in the middle of any series, let me know which ones you're in the middle of. I've got a lot more to go through, but getting there. We're making progress. It's August, so we've got some time. So hopefully we will have a couple more episodes of the finishing series I'm in the middle of before the year ends. But if you stayed this long, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with my content, and I hope to see you in the next one.